China has a history of more than 2,000 years of imperial rule, during which imperial autocracy gradually evolved and reached its peak in the Ming and Qing dynasties. Zhu Yuanzhang, the founding emperor of the Ming Dynasty, abolished the prime minister system, completely centralizing power in the emperor's hands. In the Qing Dynasty, the Yongzheng Emperor established the Grand Council, Jinjichu, allowing imperial power to penetrate every corner of the bureaucratic system. For nearly 600 years, these two dynasties pushed monarchical centralization to the extreme, forming a political system so strict that it suffocated society. In this silent autocracy competition, what means did the two dynasties use to rule the nation? Welcome back to my channel. Today, let's explore which dynasty's rule was more suffocating, China's Ming or Qing dynasty. The Ming dynasty's literary inquisition can be described as human life being as trivial as grass. Zhu Yuanzhang, the founding emperor of the Ming, was born into poverty. His early experiences as a shepherd, beggar, and even a monk became his sensitive points after he became emperor. In 1375, a scholar from Zhejiang wrote an article intending to praise the peaceful era under the emperor's rule. However, Zhu Yuanzhang flew into a rage, believing a character in the article satirized his early life as a monk. He ordered the scholar to be executed by lingqi, lingchi, a form of torture where the body was sliced piece by piece. In Beijing, another scholar's poem contained words pronounced similarly to thief, which made Zhu Yuanzhang feel insulted for his alleged early theft experiences. He ordered the scholar's entire family to be beheaded. Such absurd cases of people losing their lives over words occurred 68 times during Zhu Yuanzhang's reign, involving over 100,000 people. More incredibly, even a monk's poem with characters of Zhu Yuanzhang's surname was suspected of cursing him, leading to the monk's execution. These cases were convicted purely based on the emperor's personal sensitivity and suspicion, without clear legal basis, simply the emperor's arbitrary killings on a whim. The Qing dynasty's literary inquisition, especially during the Qianlong period, developed into a mature national system for ideological cleansing. In 1777, Wang Shiho, a scholar from Jiangxi, compiled a dictionary. His enemy reported him, claiming he failed to avoid the names of the Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong emperors as required. The Qianlong emperor was furious, ordering Wang Zihao to be executed by lingqi, while all female relatives in his family were exiled to Ningguta as slaves for garrison soldiers. Unlike the Ming dynasty, the Qing's literary inquisition followed detailed avoidance regulations, clearly stipulating that characters in the emperor's name and even related radicals must be avoided. For example, during the Kangxi emperor's reign, officials had to use alternative characters in memorials instead of the emperor's name. Statistics show that during the reigns of Kangxi, Yongzheng, and Qianlong, there were 160 literary inquisition cases, involving over 800,000 people, 8 times more than the Ming dynasty. Most of these cases had corresponding conviction bases in the Great Qing Code, Da Qing Huidan, demonstrating a systematic, state-orchestrated control and cleansing of thoughts. The Ming dynasty's imperial examination system was like a heavy ideological shackle for scholars. It stipulated that the exam must adopt the 8-legged essay format, Baguan, with questions only from the 4 books and 5 classics, Su Shu Wu Jing. Candidates had to strictly follow the annotations of Confucian classics like Zhu Xi's collected annotations on the 4 books, Su Shu Jiju, meaning they had to memorize previous scholars' works and were forbidden from expressing personal opinions. This system firmly imprisoned scholars' thoughts within the framework of feudal classics, leaving no room for free thinking. Take Tang Bohu, a renowned talent of the Ming dynasty, as an example. Tang was extremely gifted. At 28, he participated in the provincial examination and easily became the first place in the provincial exam with his excellent essay. However, the next year during the metropolitan exam, his unique writing style, different from the standard 8-legged essays, led to suspicion of cheating. The court canceled his without careful investigation and imprisoned him. After his release, Tang Bohu was disheartened, bid farewell to his official career, and made a living by selling paintings. The Qing dynasty was more extreme in imperial examinations. On the surface, Han and Manchu candidates took the exam together, but in reality, it implemented a dual-track system for Manchu and Han, Manhan Songguizhi, and even carried out cultural castration. On one hand, Manchu and Mongol candidates had separate admission quotas with a much higher admission rate. 1 in 10 Manchu-Mongol candidates was admitted, while only 1 in 100 Han candidates succeeded. On the other hand, the exam questions strictly prohibited discriminatory terms against ethnic minorities, even if quoting ancient sages. For example, during the Qianlong period, a candidate was beaten 80 large boards for quoting a sentence from Confucius Analects, Lunyi, in his essay. What's more, in the 268-year history of the Qing imperial examination, among the 114 champions, Zhongyan, 65% were Manchu-Mongol nobles. Han champions were mostly incorporated into the Han bannermen Han Jinqi after entering office, equivalent to being forced into a spiritual ethnic change, completely tamed culturally. Through this method, the Qing dynasty not only controlled scholars, thoughts but also consolidated the ruling status of Manchu-Mongol nobles through the selection mechanism. The spy system of the Ming Dynasty, namely the Xichong, Dongchong, and Jini Wei, was simply a synonym for terror in the hearts of people at that time, making the CIA seem insignificant in comparison. In 1477 AD, an event that shocked both the court and the public occurred. Wang Ji, the commander of the Xichong, encountered Xiang Zhong, the Minister of War, equivalent to the current Minister of National Defense, on Chang'an Street. Wang Ji actually pressed Xiang Zhong to the ground, stripped off his official robe, and whipped him 20 times on the spot. The reason was merely that someone reported that he had privately grumbled and criticized the actions of the Xichong. According to historical records, whenever the common people of the Ming Dynasty saw a Jini Wei agent wearing a flying fish suit and a Xiuquan knife, they would hurriedly close their doors and turn off the lights, fearing that the slightest mistake would bring about a fatal disaster. The Jinyui's imperial prison was a living hell, equipped with 18 cruel torture methods, each of which could make life worse than death. During the most extreme period of the Ming Dynasty, the Jinyui had a force of 120,000, equivalent to a modern full division. There was one Jinyui agent for every 500 people nationwide, truly achieving comprehensive human surveillance. The Qing Dynasty surveillance methods were more ingenious, playing with data algorithms. The secret memorial system, Mi-zhe-zhi-du, promoted by the Yongzheng Emperor, turned every official into his personal detective. Officials could directly report work, public sentiment, and even other officials' privacy and trivial life matters to the emperor via secret memorials. For example, the weather in their jurisdiction, rice price fluctuations, or what they had for dinner last night. Once, an official wrote in a secret memorial, "I caught a cold and had a bowl of porridge for dinner." Yongzheng annotated, "Was it millet porridge or rice porridge? Did you add side dishes?" This annotation terrified the officials below, as the emperor even cared about such trivial matters, reflecting his extreme suspicion. Moreover, Yongzheng established an integrity file for officials, recording the emperor's evaluations and handling opinions, such as whether an official was corrupt and worthy of promotion. These became important bases for officials' promotion and demotion. The Qing also secretly verified key officials' backgrounds, making them supervise and report on each other, forming a precise surveillance network, more sophisticated than the Ming's reliance on massive spy numbers. Zhu Yuanzhang's abolition of the prime minister system was a violent dismantling. In 1380, using the Huiyong rebellion case as an excuse, Zhu Yuanzhang not only executed the prime minister but also abolished the prime minister position that had lasted for 1,600 years, dispersing its power to the 6 ministries, Liubu, which directly reported to the emperor. At first, Zhu Yuanzhang was extremely diligent, getting up at 4 a.m. to review memorials, resting only 3 days a year. However, his successors lacked his energy and perseverance. During the Yongzheng Emperor's reign, he found attending court too troublesome and hid in the palace to practice Taoism, not attending court for 20 years. State affairs were controlled remotely through genii and eunuchs. As a result, the 6 ministries shuffled responsibilities, many matters were left unattended, and military deployments took months, almost paralyzing the national bureaucratic system. The Grand Council, Jinjichu, established by the Qing Dynasty, pushed imperial centralization to its peak. The working state of Grand Councilors was entirely different from that of Ming Dynasty cabinet ministers. Ming cabinet ministers could sit and discuss state affairs with the emperor, but Qing Grand Councilors had to arrive at the Grand Council at 3 a.m. for duty. When the emperor arrived, they must kneel immediately, carefully listen to the emperor's oral decree, and record it. Take Hushin, a Grand Councilor favored by the Qianlong Emperor, as an example. Despite his favor, he was essentially the emperor's senior secretary. Qianlong could insult him as a dog slave, and Hushin could only kowtow and thank him without any right to refute. All his actions had to completely obey the emperor's will, with no independent decision-making power. The Grand Council also had a sealed court dispatch system, Mi Feng Tingji. The emperor's orders were directly sent to local officials via fast horses, skipping all intermediate links, arriving in as fast as 3 days. Officials must reply on the same day upon receipt. This efficient vertical management allowed Qing emperors to truly achieve autocratic dictatorship, with all state power firmly in the emperor's hands and no force to check it. The Ming Dynasty controlled the people mainly through physical imprisonment. First was the road permit system, Luyin Zhidu. To travel, people had to apply for a luyin from the government. Even traveling from a county to a neighboring village without a luyin was prohibited. Being caught traveling without a luyin, according to the Great Ming Code, U Da Ming Lir, meant 90 large boards of flogging, enough to take half a person's life. Second was the hereditary craftsman system, Gongzhang Shishi Zhidu. In the Ming Dynasty, craftsmen's household registrations were hereditary. Once a family was registered as craftsmen, generations could only engage in craftsmanship and could not change careers. For example, porcelain craftsmen in Qing Dajun were trapped in the porcelain industry for generations. If someone tried to escape, the punishment was cruel. Their hands would be chopped off upon capture. People were like prisoners in an institutional cage, with no freedom. The Qing dynasty's control over the people focused more on spiritual domestication, with more comprehensive and in-depth means. As soon as the Qing entered the Central Plains, it promulgated the haircutting order, Tifa Ling, with the core requirement, keep your head, lose your hair, keep your hair, lose your head. In practice, the government set up barber sheds on the streets, and soldiers checked door to door with razors. Anyone with hair longer than an inch would be sentenced to death. When the people of Jiangyin resisted the haircutting order, the Qing army besieged the city for 81 days. After capturing it, they massacred the city for 3 days, killing 170,000 soldiers and civilians. Only 53 survived. This is the famous 3 massacres of Jiading in Chinese history. In total, over 500,000 people were massacred. The Qing used bloody means to forcibly change the Han hairstyle and clothing traditions that had lasted for 2,000 years. Haircutting and clothing change were not just superficial alterations but a severe destruction of Han culture and spirit. In traditional Han concepts, tying hair and wearing a crown, Sufa Daiguan, represented civilization and dignity. The classic of filial piety, Shaojing, states, body, hair, and skin are gifts from parents, not to be easily damaged. The Qing's haircutting order was like publicly severing the Han cultural umbilical cord. Additionally, the Qing stipulated that officials must wear Manchu official uniforms, and commoners could only wear long gowns and jackets. This detail of clothing reform aimed to make the Han people habitually accept their servant status from body language. Furthermore, the Qing promoted the Manchu language supremacy policy, requiring ministers to submit memorials in Manchu first, with important documents in both Manchu and Chinese. Among the archives preserved by the Grand Council Manchu archives accounted for 60%. Han officials had to spend considerable time and energy learning Manchu to get promoted. This linguistic hegemony was more covert than haircutting, subtly eroding Han cultural identity. When a person has to use the conqueror's language to write and express, their thoughts are gradually enslaved. By comparing the two dynasties, it is evident that the Qing dynasty indeed surpassed the Ming in terms of autocratic rule. The Ming's autocracy relied more on violent means and simple institutional changes belonging to a crude violent suppression, while the Qing pushed autocratic imperial power to the extreme through more sophisticated institutional design, an efficient surveillance system, and in-depth ideological control. Although this high degree of autocratic rule maintained the dynasty's stability, it severely constrained social development and progress, which was also one of the important reasons why China gradually fell behind in modern times and was brutally defeated by Western powers. That's all for today's episode. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to like, subscribe to my channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss more wonderful historical stories in the future. See you next time.